the Center for Hope and Safety, formerly Mid-Valley Women's Crisis Service, has been around for 51 years, providing services and support to victims and survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking, and human trafficking in Marion and Polk counties. I've been the executive director here for 27 years, and in our former office I had a big door, and I used to put sticky notes on the back of it when I would hear things that survivors needed: housing, job training, supportive services, and I had a whole array of sticky notes. And when we had the opportunity to buy the Greyhound bus terminal, it was a dream come true of these are all the things that we could put into that.
Hope Plaza is more than just a building. It's a symbol of hope and renewal. It's fitting that it stands on the side of an old Greyhound bus station. Once a safe destination for weary travelers, it is now a sanctuary for survivors beginning new journeys toward a brighter future.
Okay, you ready? Okay.
Ready?
Welcome to InSight. I'm Wendy Brokaw. With the snip of a ribbon, Hope Plaza began its journey to give hope and safety to survivors of domestic violence, a place to call home for these women to recover and to heal. The state of Oregon talks of breaking the cycle of violence, which has far-reaching effects. A state study in 2023 said over a third of adults in Oregon experience domestic violence in their lifetimes, and intimate partners are responsible for 1 in 5 homicides nationwide. The work won't be easy. The study says there is no coordinated approach among state agencies, and victims and survivors face multiple barriers to accessing community services and even navigating the justice system. That is why Hope Plaza is so important and a milestone in breaking the cycle of violence. My guest today is Jayne Downing, Executive Director of the Center for Hope and Safety, and has for decades been in the forefront of community efforts to deal with and raise awareness of domestic violence. Hello, Jayne. I'm so happy to see you again.
It's great
been
to see
too
you.
long.
Yes, too long.
Jayne, I remember meeting you over 15 years ago when you were the Executive Director of the Mid-Valley Women's Crisis Service, and you were tirelessly working with individuals, agencies, people everywhere, trying to let them know about domestic violence and what it takes to resolve it in communities. What was your were you able to get people to listen to you? What was going on? Why were you doing that?
Yeah, there has been a tremendous outpouring of support and awareness. That definitely has changed, and that started even before I started doing this work. The founders over 51 years ago at the Mid-Valley Women's Crisis Service did tons of outreach into the community to say, when people need help, here's a place you can come, and here's what's available. And so we continue to just make sure that victims and survivors know where they can come and get help 24 hours a day, 365 days a year.
Well, that was a beautiful ceremony, the ribbon cutting of a centerpiece of one of your big pushes, and getting a place for these women to go and start their lives again. But I also remember you mentioning the sticky notes, and I used to see those sticky notes on your door in the Mid-Valley Crisis Center.
Yes. So every time I'd hear from a victim or survivor about something that they needed in order to make their lives better, I would put another sticky note up behind my door. And so it had things like housing and supportive services and job training. And I even put sustainability on there because I wanted it to be a place where we didn't have to worry about, oh gosh, is the funding going to be there to be able to do it? And so we were. It's just so thrilling that we're actually be able to design Hope Plaza to have all those things in it and to be a sustainable project. It's incredible.
Well, How did Hope Plaza happen? I know that the groundbreaking was in 2022, but the idea got going a long ways before that, at least 2015.
Yes. So when we moved into our office downtown, we moved out of kind of a neighborhood area and into more of the downtown core. Right next to us was the old Greyhound bus terminal, and it was sitting empty, and it was on the market for $1.2 million, which is a huge amount for a nonprofit like ours. And so we just started saying, what could we do there? And we thought of those sticky notes, all the different things we could have under one roof. And we negotiated with the Greyhound folks, and they sold it to us for $650,000. And then we started the process. And we had an architect in town, John Shirley, from Anderson Shirley Architects, who dreamed with us, walked through with us, and we just said, we wanted to have this, and we wanted to have this. And he drew up the original plans, all out of the goodness of his heart, all for free, to get this process started. And we had other people that came alongside us and dreamed the dream with us. And so we didn't know how it was all going to come about and how we were going to make it happen, but we just started taking one step at a time. We paid off, we got a bridge loan, and then we paid that off in less than 3 years. And so then we started the process to, demolish it and do all those things, and then how do we build it, and brought in some incredible community partners, and then talk to you talk about the visits. Talked to over 150 different people about the dream of Hope Plaza. So legislators and city councilors and commissioners from, I didn't know how far reaching this would be, so I talked in Marion and Polk and Yamhill County, went to, neighborhood associations, everyone who would listen to me, give me 5 minutes, I would be talking about Hope Plaza and what it could do.
You also mentioned a necklace that you had as a gift, and how significant.
Yeah.
What was that necklace about?
Yeah, so right before I started talking, one of our incredible community partners, the Warriors of Hope from Grand Ronde, they presented me with a necklace that they had been handmade by them, and they give them to people that they feel like it's going to be meaningful to, and it was incredibly meaningful to me. And so I held on to that necklace, and I have it in my office, and it just was so beautiful for them to be there. And Spirit Mountain Community Fund was part of helping fund it, but also that partnership is so rich and so great to have.
The Warriors of Hope,
Yes.
they have handled the domestic violence services for the Grand Ronde Confederated Tribes.
Yes, and we partner with them very much. They used our shelter before their shelter was open, but we partner on a regular basis with them, and that's incredibly meaningful, and I'm excited about what we're going to be able to do at Hope Plaza with them.
Well, let's go back to, you said that this was the old Greyhound bus line terminal, and it had to be torn down. What has replaced it?
So we have been able to build Hope Plaza, and Hope Plaza is 3 floors. On the first floor are businesses, but it can't just be any business. They have to agree to partner with us. So they pay a reduced rent, but they do pay rent, but they have to have a meaningful partnership. So we have a counselor that's going to do therapy sessions with individuals. We have a nonprofit that's going to do trainings. We have an employment agency going in that will help people find jobs. And then we have another nonprofit coming in that does wonderful things like matching savings accounts and helps people when they want to think about owning their own home, and helps them take them
owning
through
their
classes.
own home.
Yes, so it's really a place to dream and to find those coordinated services. Also on that first floor is a bike room. We have a great relationship with the Hub, and they provide free bikes for our families, and so we wanted an indoor safe place for them to store their bicycles. We have a new donation room. Our other one was very small, and the community is very generous to us.
Oh, that's
and now we have 3 times the size of a donation room.
You have a place for people to actually access clothing?
Yes.
Donations.
So next to the donation room is a boutique.
A boutique.
And we call it the Hope Builders Boutique. And in it is clothing that is, they can come and shop for their own clothing for free. We don't charge anyone for any of that. And so instead of, before we would bring out bins and say, does this look like it would fit? And now they can, it's on racks, and it's, really set up for them to be able to shop. It's going to have clothing for when they're going to look for those jobs, that they can come in and look their best selves. And so we're really excited about the boutique. And that's just on the first floor. And then we have 2 floors of low-income, fully accessible housing. So every unit is accessible. It was built for the ADA standards so that we never have to say to someone, I'm sorry, we don't have a unit for you, if they have a disability. All of them are built that way. And so they go through the Salem Housing Authority to get a voucher, a project-based voucher. And so we will receive a little bit of income from that in addition to the businesses we're partnering with on the first floor. And then for them, they're only paying 30% of their income. So it's truly low income housing. And then we are helping them if they come in and they have furniture, great, and they want to keep it. But we also will help them if they're starting over and they have no furniture. We will furnish it. We have folks who sponsored that. And then we have a laundry on both floors that's free to them to use, and we pay the utilities and the broadband and provide that laundry facility. Also on that area is an open atrium, open to the sky, where they just can go out and sit, and it makes light flood in from the inside in addition to the outside of their apartments. And so it's a beautiful place for them to heal and just enjoy their family. And then we also have a training room that we built. So we're gonna have trainings, not only for the volunteers who help us do the hotline and help us in the office, but also it will have classes for them. We already have some lined up on financial wellness. The yoga community did amazing fundraisers. They're gonna be providing classes there, and then many other things like support groups. And so it'll just be some wonderful wraparound services. We attached it to our building, and so our staff can go back and forth and provide support and help to them. And community partners are going to be coming in and providing classes and different things. So we tried to think of all the different things that we could do to really make that project something that could serve not only the people that are living there, but all the survivors that we serve in Marion and Polk County.
What do you especially like about this building's design? Just some features of it. How many apartments are there?
There are 20 units. There's 12 studio apartments, 4 one-bedroom and 4 two-bedroom apartments. And each floor, it mirrors the other floor, exactly the same configuration. And there's 2 things that I love the most about this. The atrium being open to the sky, fresh air every day, and it's beautiful space. I love that folks are going to be able to do that and have that really nice space that's protected. But the other thing is not so much an amenity of the place, but the design is so that it will be self-sustaining. Because we are opening it debt-free, debt-free thanks to all the support that we received from the state of Oregon, and the federal delegation did an appropriation for Hope Plaza. Because of that, and community members, people who sponsored rooms and furnishings, because of all of that, we opened it debt-free. And now with the income that we receive from the vouchers and from the businesses, it's self-sustaining. We should, never have to go to the public and say, please give to Hope Plaza. Of course, we have other programs that we need their help. I don't want to, make it sound like we don't need help. We do. But this project, we will be able to, hold on to those funds, make sure it's maintained, make sure that we have the services available for the folks who are living there. So it truly is a self-sustaining project. And we're putting in solar, so we help reduce, the costs So we really have tried to think of all the ways to make this a self-sustaining project. And my dream is that this will serve as a model for other communities to be able to build something similar, that then they just keep taking care of the people that they need to take care of.
Are you saying this is a really unique endeavor?
I'm sure there are some somewhere. I'm sure we aren't the first ones to come up with this idea, but I don't know of any in Oregon, and we've had an outpouring of people from other communities asking us, how did you do this? How do you make this happen? And we share all of that. We want them to know how to do it, because think about it. If we had more projects like this, whether it's you're serving, a population similar to ours or one that's completely different, but that you can keep having that income come back into the program and make it stronger, make it better. What a great model to be able to have for all types of programs in our state and in our country. We couldn't do it without everyone who stepped up to help us to be able to do it. It's just, it really is. I sometimes, I go over there and I'm still shocked that it happened, that it came true. So, but it's just the most wonderful thing, and it's gonna change lives there, and that's the most exciting part.
Speaking of changing lives, are there any expectations that the tenants who are becoming residents, how many are there now?
We have over 800 on the waiting list for the studios, over 800 for the one bedroom, and over 800 for the two bedroom. I don't know how many of those they applied, maybe for all three, not knowing what might be available, but that just shows you the need in our community. Yeah, so a lot of folks, and so we're starting the process. Step one was to apply to the waiting list. Step two is to meet, we're going to be looking at those folks on the waiting list to make sure that they're survivors, and then starting to move them in. So we're hoping, either later in September or early October, we'll have our first residents in. We're going to do a bit of a slow rollout just to make sure we work through any issues, but yeah, we're excited to get families in there.
When we're talking about survivors, what counts as being a survivor?
Mm-hmm.
Is it domestic violence?
Domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking, and human trafficking. So we serve all of those. And just to give you some idea, last year we had over 38,000 contacts to our program, and we provided over 10,000 nights of shelter to children and adults that needed that. So just, we provide a lot of other services. And so, it may be people that have been connected with our program that are coming into Hope Plaza. It may be someone who's a survivor but didn't need to come into shelter or didn't reach out to us. That's not a criteria. If they tell us that they are a survivor of one of those types of interpersonal violence, we're gonna believe them, and we're gonna work with them to help overcome the trauma of what they've been through.
How long can a resident remain a resident? Is there any time limit?
There is not a time limit. This is actually permanent housing. They do have to meet the income criteria for working with the housing authority. And so our hope is actually we will work with them to help them grow their income, and they will, be able to move on from Hope Plaza just because they are in a much better place and able to be self-sufficient. And so we're going to be, working with them. But if we have somebody who is on disability or Social Security and they want to live in Hope Plaza the rest of their lives, we welcome them, and we're happy to do that. As you can imagine, with the housing shortage, permanent housing is difficult to come by, and especially for survivors starting over with, typically the clothes on their back and not much more. And so being able to help them get established in what can be permanent housing for them is incredible.
I don't think people really understand how domestic violence, just using that as a catch-all for everything we've been talking about, is so much more complex, and it touches so many other areas in society.
Yeah.
Can you explain what that means?
Yeah. So domestic violence, where one partner is controlling another partner, it touches every aspect. You think about schools. If a child is living in a home where there's been domestic violence, and so that trauma of experiencing that, for partners who their partner is controlling them, isolating them, potentially harming them, either emotionally or physically, all of that, it affects the workplace, it affects social services, of course, police and law enforcement. Our police chief for many years is, all the former ones that I've been around and the current one talk about, think about the calls to 911 if our 24-hour bilingual crisis line wasn't there for victims to be able to call us. It impacts every part of our society. And you talked about in your intro the statistics, 1 in 3 women in Oregon will probably be impacted by domestic and sexual violence in their lifetime. And so, it's a huge issue.
The state audit done by the Secretary of State's audit had said that there is no coordination, and we need to have more of a centralized, coordinated effort to really break the cycle of domestic violence. What's your reaction to that?
Well, the great news is there actually is some coordination. The programs themselves, so there are over 50 domestic and sexual violence service providers of all kinds, tribal nations, culturally specific programs, programs like ours that are standalone nonprofits throughout Oregon. We work together to provide that coordinated response. And so while
what does coordination look like?
Yeah, so we come together and we talk about services in the state. We help each other when a survivor may not be safe in their community and needs to go to another community. So we're always talking to one another, and we're always looking at what are the services that are needed. Where are the gaps? Our program was built on filling gaps for victims and survivors, and most of the programs operate that same way, where they're all saying, okay, here's a gap. Everyone can bring their pets to our shelter. Everyone can bring their pets to Hope Plaza. That was a big barrier. For many years, we couldn't do that. And so victims would stay because they didn't want to leave a pet. And so now to be able to say, come, bring them with you, that's wonderful to be able to do. And so all the programs are looking at what they can do and trying to work together more. Is there more that needs to be done? Yes.
What?
Yeah. So, well, I would say we don't receive any funding to do those coordination of services. We're just doing it on top of everything else that we do. And, funding for our crisis services, it's a little harder to make them self-sustaining. Our 24-hour bilingual crisis line, we need help to be able to provide that safe shelter where they're coming in an emergency. advocacy, all of those kinds of things, support groups. And so, we do need the community's help to provide all those. And there are programs trying to do that in a small rural community with 1 or 2 staff. And so there needs to be more to support the programs that are working so hard to be able to provide these services. But I do want folks to know that, we are doing our best just to try and make sure that it's not quite as, that no one's talking to one another. That's kind of scary, the idea that no one is talking to each other and saying, how do we coordinate services and how do we provide more? We are trying to do that. We just need some help to be able to do it better.
What does this Hope Plaza really offer survivors of domestic violence?
I would say it offers them a place where they can come to and hopefully doing, we've already helped them to begin that healing if they're in our shelter or, getting services from us. But they also have that place where they can just say, this is my home. They can build it, the way that they want. They can rest and relax in that and also get more services if they want. They can come to job training pieces. They can come to yoga, whatever it is that they're needing that will help them in that healing journey. They can do that. For folks who aren't living there, they can come into the Hope Builders Boutique and find the clothing that they need. And they can, it's connected to our office, so they can come in and talk to an advocate and get services. I also think it's that long-term, we're here, we're a part of the community, we are making a difference for thousands of people every year, and that's an incredible thing to be able to do. So I think about the future. We're at the beginning still, kind of, but you think about the hundreds of people that will come through there for job training and services, and it's not just the 20 units of people that are living there, it's all the survivors that we serve. So it's an incredible gift. It really hopefully will live up to its name of bringing that hope.
Does it take a long time for someone who is and finds out I am a victim of domestic violence to really recognize that fact?
It can. We talk about that leaving an abuser is not an event, it's a process. And so every person is somewhere in that process. They may not realize what's going on. And it may take, someone doing a bit of outreach. We have posters everywhere and materials in different languages and formats. And we put them in places like bakeries and laundromats and, all kinds of places we can think of so that someone might see it and go, I wonder if this is a place that could help me because I'm experiencing some things. And so we'll have people who will call us in the middle of the night sometimes and say, I'm not sure this applies to me. And we're able to talk with them and help them recognize it. Being able to do a show like this, you'll be surprised at how many people will reach out to us afterwards and say, I never realized that was me. I think I need help. And that's so rewarding to know that all the different ways in which we reach out, someone might come to us for the first time and get that help.
How do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so they can call us on that bilingual crisis line. The number is 503-399-7722. They can walk into our offices at 605 Center Street Northeast in downtown Salem. Or we now have an office in Woodburn, and so they can make an appointment. We don't have staff there, thanks to Marion County. We have staff there about 4 days a week, but we want to make sure they don't come and we're not there. So, calling us on that hotline and saying, I'd like to meet somebody in Woodburn, and we will meet them there and provide those services. So any way they reach out, social media, emails, however they do it.
And your website?
We're there on our website, at hopeandsafety.org. Any way they reach out, we are there for them.
Jayne, this has been a wonderful conversation with you, and I wish you the best of success with Hope Plaza, and may it turn into many more so that waiting list gets whittled down.
That
And
would
the
be
need for
awesome.
a waiting list does as well.
Yeah, we hope so too. We hope many more communities can have something similar to Hope Plaza.
In parting, what would you like to leave those people who may be watching a thought about their hope and their safety?
Yeah, we would just like them to know that we're here if they do need to talk to someone. We have incredible advocates that are available and that can just, talk with them about whatever is going on for them. If our services aren't appropriate, for whatever reason, it's not really that they're dealing with domestic violence, we can help them figure out a community partner that can help them. So we want them to know we're here.
Well, the watchword is hope.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being my guest today on InSight, Jayne. This has
you.
been really illuminating.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us today on InSight. I'm Wendy Brokaw.